Hey everyone, in this tutorial series, we'll create a game like Pokemon in Unity. So let's look at what we're going to make. So we have tile-based movement for our player, just like in Pokemon. And we have collisions, so if I try to walk through this house, I will be blocked. And we also have a simple dialogue system. So if I try to walk through the grass, I will encounter a wild Pokemon. So if we select attack, we will see the list of the attacks our Pokemon has, and each attack has a PP and a type. So when I attack, the HP of the wild Pokemon will decrease and it will attack back. So since Bulbasaur is level 7 and Charmander is level 3, Bulbasaur's attack will cause much more damage. So I'll attack again. So now the wild Pokemon fainted, and we will go back to our scene and we can move around like before. So the Pokemons are architected by using scriptable objects. So we have a very flexible system. We can easily add new Pokemons and update existing ones. And even the moves are architected by using scriptable objects. So the point is, we'll try to create the game by using good game development practices. So before we start, please consider subscribing to my channel. That will motivate me to do more of these videos. So let's get started without any further ado. Okay, so I'll create a new project. Make sure to select 2D. Okay, so first we need to import the sprites that we are going to use in our game. So I'm going to use this 16 by 16 tile set from OpenGameArt. I have already downloaded it. So let's bring that into Unity. Let's create a folder called Art for organizing. And just drag and drop the sprites into the folder. Okay, so we have many different sprite sheets in this pack. So we need another sprite sheet that contains some tiles from Pokemon. So let's import that. Okay, so that's also imported. So now, since we're using pixel art, we need to apply some specific settings to all our sprites. So select all our sprites, and in the inspector, change the pixel per unit to 16. This is because we know that all our sprites are 16 by 16 pixels. And change the filter mode to point and compression to none. So these two settings will make sure that our pixel art looks good. Otherwise, it's going to look blurry. I'll hit apply. Okay, so now let's paint some tiles in our scene so that we can get a reference when we implement a tile-based movement. So first we need to break our sprite sheet into individual sprites. So in the inspector, change the sprite mode to multiple and hit apply. Okay, so now go to sprite editor, click on slice, choose grid by cell size, and change the pixel size to 16 by 16. Okay, so now our tile set is broken into individual tiles. Hit apply. Okay, so now if you look inside the tile set, you can see multiple tiles. Next, let's create a tile map to paint our tiles. So go to 2D object and select tile map. I'll rename the tile map to background. So to paint on a tile map, we need to create something called a tile palette. So first open the tile palette window, Go to Window, 2D and Tile Palette. Create new palette. I'll call it background. You need to choose a folder to save the styles. I'll create a new folder called tiles. Next, drag and drop this tiles set into the tile palette. Again, I'll choose a tiles folder. Okay, so now we can select a tile and paint on our tile map. So I'm going to choose this tile as my background tile and use the box tool to paint some background tiles. Okay, so now we'll create the player. So first we need to break the character sprite sheet just like we did for the tile set. So in the inspector, change the sprite mode to multiple and hit apply. And in the sprite editor, click on slice, choose grid by cell size, and this time the pixel size is going to be 16 by 32. Okay, so the character sprites has been split correctly. So hit apply. Next, drag the first sprite into a scene. So this creates a game object. I'll rename the game object to player, but our player is not actually visible. So this is because our player is under the background. So we can use sorting layers to tell Unity to always show player in front of the background. So let's create some sorting layers. I'll add a layer called background and another one called player. And I'll assign the player sprite to player sorting layer and the background tile map to background sorting layer. So now we can see our player. So one important thing is that the player layer should be below the background layer. So if you put the player layer above it, the player has gone behind the background. So just make sure that the player layer is below the background layer. Okay, so now let's implement movement. So in Pokemon, the movement is tile based, which means the player will always move from one tile to another. So for example, let's change the player's position to 0.5. Now the player is in the center of a tile. So if I press the right key, the player will move to the center of this tile. Okay, it can't move to a position that is in between these two tiles. So since we know each tile is one unit, we can just add 1 to its x value. Okay, so now it's in the center of the next tile. This is how we are going to implement movement. So let's make a script called player controller. I'll just create folders to organize things. Okay, open the script in Visual Studio. So in the player controller, we need a public variable for the movement speed. We need another variable to check if the player is moving. Let's create a Boolean variable. Now in the update function, if the player is not moving, then we'll check for input and try to move the player. So let's get the input. So I store the input in a variable. And by the way, is moving doesn't have to be public because we don't want to be able to change that from the inspector. So now if the input is not 0, we will calculate the target position to which the player should move. So the target position will be the current position of the player plus the input. Since we are using getAccessRaw, the input will always be 1 or -1. So if I was pressing the right key, the horizontal input will be 1. And if I was pressing the left key, the horizontal input will be -1. So we just have to add the input into our current position to get the target position. Okay, so now we need to write a coroutine to move the player from the current position to the target position. So if you have never used a coroutine before, it's a special type of function which has IEnumerator as its return type. So it's used to do something over a period of time. So in this case, we want to move the player from its current position to its target position over a period of time. So let me explain how this coroutine works. So when this coroutine is first called, it will check if the difference between the target position and the player's current position is greater than a very small value. So if there is actually a difference between both positions, then we will use the move towards function to move the player towards the target position by a very small amount. So after that, yield return null will be executed. This will stop the execution of the coroutine and resume it in the next update function. Okay, so that's how yield return statements work inside a coroutine. So in the next update function, execution will resume from here. So once again, it will check if the difference between the two positions are greater than a small value. And again, it will move the player's current position by a small amount. So this will keep repeating till the current position of the player and the target position are really close. And after that, this condition will be false and will come out of the loop. And outside the loop, we will just set the player's current position to the target position. Okay, so that's how this coroutine works. So one more thing I want to do is at the start of the coroutine, I'm going to set isMoving to true. And at the end, I'll set it to false. Okay, so now we need to call the coroutine from the update function. To call a coroutine, we use the start coroutine function. We'll pass our target position. Okay, so now let's assign the script to our player. We'll set the speed as 5 and test the game. Okay, so you can see that the player is moving from one tile to another very smoothly. So one thing I want to do is I want to remove the diagonal movement, because in Pokemon we can't move diagonally. So here I'll say if input.x is not equal to 0, then just set the input.y equal to 0. So only one of these can be non-zero at a time and the player won't move diagonally. Let's test the game now. Okay, so we have removed diagonal movements. So I'm going to stop the video here, and in the next video we will look at how to implement animations. If you think this video was helpful, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.